The sound of footsteps echo through marble halls. A chandelier flickers as sunlight cuts through centuries of dust. Behind every curtain, a story is waiting, not just of lords and ladies, but of the hundreds who built this world from scratch. Downton Abbey isn't just a show. It's a time machine, powered by art, precision, and passion. The story of Downton Abbey begins long before the first camera ever rolled. It starts with a vision, a dream to bring early 20th century England back to life. Down to every polished teacup and whispered secret, the creators wanted to capture not only the look of a vanished age, but also its heartbeat, a world where tradition met change, and where every smile hid a silent struggle. At the center of it all stands Highclere Castle, the beating heart of Downton. Its grand towers and endless corridors became the home of the Crawley family. And to millions of viewers around the world, it became a living, breathing character. Each stone of the castle holds real history, stories of nobles, servants, and visitors who once walked those same halls. When the crew first arrived, they knew they weren't just filming inside a building. They were stepping into the past. But it wasn't just about grand halls and silk gowns. The world of Downton needed to feel alive. That meant endless hours of research, from the placement of a letter opener to the correct shape of a servant's cap. Nothing was random. Every candle was lit with intention. Every hallway hum carried a purpose. Even the way light fell on a dinner table was planned. To show warmth upstairs and quiet labor downstairs, behind the beauty of the show lies contrast, the rich and the poor. The upstairs and the downstairs, all bound by duty and fate. The show's creator, Julian Fellows, once said that Downton Abbey isn't just about a house. It's about a way of life. And that's exactly what the team set out to build. Not a fantasy, but a reflection of how society once worked, breathed, and changed with every ticking clock. As the first scripts came to life, so did the challenge: how to make viewers in the 21st century feel like they belonged in 1912. It wasn't enough to show fancy costumes and grand speeches. It had to feel intimate, like a glimpse into a diary that was never meant to be read. The set, the sound, and even the silence between lines were chosen to make you forget that cameras existed at all. And so, with the first day of filming at Highclere, a new era began, one that would not only entertain but transport. The world of Downton Abbey was no longer just a place on a script. It was real. It had a soul, and soon it would capture millions of hearts around the globe. It all began with a single question: how do you breathe life into history? The world of Downton Abbey wasn't just written, it was built, piece by piece, with hands, hearts, and imagination. Long before the actors stepped into their roles, a small army of creators worked quietly behind the curtains, turning words on a page into a living, breathing masterpiece. The production team studied thousands of photographs, diaries, and letters from the early 1900s. They looked at the way sunlight touched lace curtains, how servants folded napkins, and how women pinned their hair before dinner. Every detail mattered. Nothing could look too new, too modern, or too perfect. The world had to feel lived in, a place with secrets hidden under its beauty. Set designers worked inside Highclere Castle, carefully blending what was real with what was imagined. They added props so naturally that even the castle's owners sometimes forgot what was part of the show and what belonged to their family. Each object, a vase, a clock, a silver spoon, had a story of its own. The goal wasn't to decorate. It was to whisper history through every corner of the frame. Then came the light, soft golden, and full of memory. The cinematographers wanted Downton to look like a painting from another century. The camera never rushed, it glided. Every scene looked like time itself had slowed down to listen. Through those gentle movements, the audience could feel what the characters couldn't say: longing, pride, heartbreak, and change. Costume designer Susanna Buxton brought her own kind of magic. She once said that a costume isn't just fabric, it's a character's second skin. Each outfit revealed who they were and where they stood in life. Silk and lace for the ladies upstairs, wool and cotton for the servants below. A single button could show rank. A color could show mood. When Lady Mary walked into a room, her dress spoke before she did. The makeup team followed the same truth: less was more. They didn't want actors to look like they were from the past. They wanted them to belong there. Pale faces, natural tones, and small imperfections gave each face authenticity. The goal was never glamour, it was truth. What made Downton Abbey different was not its scale, but its care. Every department worked like pieces of one grand orchestra. The sets were the stage, the costumes, the melody, and the camera, the conductor. Together, they built a world where fiction and reality danced as one. And in that quiet dance, something rare happened. History began to feel human again. Not a distant memory, but something you could touch, hear, and feel. The team didn't just recreate the past, they invited us to live inside it. Before the first scene was filmed, there were only names on paper: Lady Mary, Lord Grantham, Carson, Anna. But those names needed faces, voices, and souls. Finding the right actors wasn't just about talent, it was about truth. The casting team searched for people who didn't just play their roles, they became them. When Hugh Bonneville first walked into Highclere Castle as Lord Grantham, it was as if the house itself recognized him. His calm strength and quiet dignity filled every room. Elizabeth McGovern, as Cora, carried warmth and grace that softened every scene. Together, they created a marriage that felt real, not perfect, but human. And then came Michelle Dockery as Lady Mary, fierce, proud, and fragile all at once. Her elegance hid her pain, and her silence spoke louder than words. Every glance she gave seemed to hold a century of secrets. Maggie Smith, as the Dowager Countess, became the heartbeat of wit and wisdom. Her sharp lines and knowing eyes added color to even the grayest day. When she entered a room, she didn't need an introduction. She was the story. But Downton Abbey was never only about those who dined upstairs. The heart of the show beat strongest downstairs, among the servants who kept the grand house alive. Jim Carter, as Carson the butler, stood like a pillar of loyalty and pride. His every word carried the weight of duty. Phyllis Logan, as Mrs. Hughes, gave kindness shape, strong yet gentle, firm yet full of compassion. Together, the cast became a living mirror of the world they portrayed. Their relationships weren't rehearsed, they were felt. On set, laughter and friendship built real chemistry that spilled naturally onto the screen. When a scene called for heartbreak, it wasn't acted. It was shared behind the camera. The directors encouraged silence moments when words weren't needed. A lingering gaze, a hand brushing against fabric, a sigh at the end of a long day. These became the language of emotion. Viewers didn't just watch these people, they knew them. Each actor brought a different rhythm, a different heartbeat, and together they formed a family, sometimes clashing, sometimes holding each other up. The brilliance of Downton Abbey lay in how every character, no matter how small, mattered. The kitchen maid's smile, the chauffeur's dream, the butler's regret, each story added a thread to a larger tapestry of love, loyalty, and loss. And perhaps that is why these characters never truly left us. They weren't strangers from a distant past, they were reflections of ourselves. Caught between duty and desire, bound by rules yet driven by hope. Through them, Downton Abbey reminded us that beneath the titles, the uniforms, and the polished silver, we're all just people trying to find our place in a changing world. Long before it was Downton Abbey, it was Highclere Castle, a real home. Standing tall over the quiet countryside of Hampshire, England, its walls had witnessed centuries of laughter, loss, and love long before the cameras arrived. When the production team first entered, it wasn't just another filming location. It felt like stepping into history's heartbeat. The castle didn't need to pretend to be grand. It simply was. The Great Hall, with its high ceilings and marble floors, seemed to hum with echoes of the past. The morning light pouring through stained glass windows painted every wall with golden silence. But beauty, as the crew learned, comes with challenges. Filming inside a real, centuries-old home meant respecting its spirit and its fragility. No nails could be hammered into the walls, no furniture moved without permission, no lights too bright to harm the old paint. Every shot required patience, precision, and deep respect. Sometimes the crew worked in almost complete silence. The halls carried sound so easily that a single whisper could ruin a take. When the cast rehearsed dinner scenes, the clinking of silverware and soft footsteps became a natural soundtrack. No sound design could have recreated that authenticity. Highclere wasn't just a background. It breathed with the story. It listened. It held memories both real and imagined. The owners of Highclere, Carnarvon family, opened their home to the world, watching as fiction unfolded in rooms where real nobility once dined. During breaks, the crew would share quiet tea in the garden, watching the sun fall behind the castle, the same view the Crawleys might have admired a century ago. Many said it felt less like a workplace and more like a dream they didn't want to wake from. Cinematographers often describe the castle as alive. The way light changed through the day transformed its mood, bright and regal at dawn, soft and melancholic by dusk. Every scene captured within those walls carried that emotion, even if no one spoke of it aloud. The castle became a silent actor, proud, elegant, and timeless. Outside, filming brought its own tests. Rain could turn fields to mud within minutes. Wind tangled the actors' hair and scattered props across the grounds. But every difficulty added texture. Every imperfection made Downton more real. The crew learned to move with the weather, not against it, letting nature write her own lines. By the end of the first season, Highclere Castle wasn't just a set, it was home. Its staircases had carried joy, heartbreak, and everything in between. The actors often said that walking through its halls helped them understand their characters better, the way the past lingers, even in silence. When the final shots wrapped, and the lights dimmed, the castle returned to stillness. But for those who filmed there, and for millions who watched from afar, it would never be just a building again. It became a doorway, a passage between fiction and reality, where history and storytelling meet when the lights fade and the actors step aside. Another kind of story begins, the story of those who stay in the shadows so others can shine. Behind every elegant dinner, every whispered secret, and every glimmer of candlelight stood a team whose names most people never hear. They are the quiet architects of Downton Abbey's magic. The camera operators were the first to arrive and the last to leave. They carried the weight of time on their shoulders, steady, patient, precise. Their lenses didn't just capture images. They captured emotion. A slow pan across the dining hall wasn't just about showing grandeur. It was about revealing loneliness, pride, or longing. Each frame was painted with intention. It's like a brushstroke on a canvas that would live forever. Lighting designers worked in near silence, chasing the perfect glow. They studied how the morning sun kissed the castle windows and how dusk softened the walls. They recreated that feeling light that felt natural, yet cinematic. Every candle flicker was placed by hand, every shadow shaped with care. They weren't lighting a set. They were sculpting memory. Then came the sound engineers, the unseen listeners. They caught every small detail, the rustle of fabric, the creak of an old staircase, the distant call of birds beyond the estate walls. These sounds were not decoration. They were life itself. Together, they built an atmosphere so rich that even with your eyes closed, you could hear Downton breathing. The set decorators were storytellers in silence. Their work began before dawn, moving carefully through the castle's rooms, arranging props as if time had placed them there. A letter on a desk, a folded napkin, a smudge on a teacup. These were not random choices. They were whispers of character, hints of unseen stories. The beauty of Downton wasn't just in what you saw, but in what you felt. And while the audience admired the elegance above, the crew worked in controlled chaos below. Dozens of people moving like clockwork, costume teams ironing, makeup artists fixing collars, assistants resetting furniture, all while the camera rolled. Every take, every pause, every adjustment mattered. There were no small jobs. Everyone's hands were part of the masterpiece. Director Brian Percival often said that the crew was the soul of Downton. They create the world, he explained, so the actors can believe in it. That belief was contagious. When the crew believed in the world they built, the audience did too. The beauty of Downton Abbey wasn't born in grand speeches or royal halls. It was crafted by people who worked in silence, whose dedication never appeared on screen. They stood behind the camera, covered in dust, holding the dream steady for everyone else. And that's the secret of true filmmaking. When the story feels effortless, it's because someone worked endlessly to make it so. The crew didn't just film a show, they built a memory, piece by piece, frame by frame. That would live on long after the final curtain fell. And refused to let go. When the final bell echoed through Downton's halls and the screen faded to black, something remarkable had already happened. The world had fallen in love with a house. But it wasn't just the castle, the gowns, or the accents that stayed with people. It was the feeling, the quiet ache of time passing. The reminder that no matter how grand the walls, change always finds its way inside. From living rooms in London to apartments in New York, families gathered to watch lives unfold in candlelight. People who had never known the English countryside found themselves mourning fictional losses, celebrating imaginary weddings, and feeling nostalgia for an age they had never lived through. That was Downton's gift, to make the past feel alive, and the familiar feel sacred. The emotional heartbeat of Downton Abbey came from its honesty. It didn't need explosions or twists to hold an audience. Instead, it trusted silence. A letter unopened. A glance left lingering. A servant hesitating at the edge of a ballroom. These were moments that spoke louder than words. The show taught its viewers to listen between the lines, to find beauty in restraint, and strength in stillness. Even years after the final episode, people still returned to Downton not just for entertainment, but for comfort. It became a place to revisit, like an old photograph, soft around the edges, filled with warmth and memory. For some, it was a story of love and loss. For others, it was about dignity, class, or the slow erosion of tradition. But for everyone, it was about home. The impact went beyond screens. Tourism at Highclere Castle surged as fans traveled from around the globe just to stand where Lady Mary once walked. The show sparked a renewed love for period dramas, costume design, and even early 20th century history. University lectures, art exhibitions, and fan conventions all carried the same truth. Downton wasn't just watched. It was felt. Critics called it a modern classic, but for many, it was more personal than that. It reminded people that change, no matter how painful, is inevitable, and yet life continues with grace. The upstairs may rise, the downstairs may fall, but humanity binds them all. That message echoed across generations, across languages, across time, through its music, its characters, and its stillness. Downton Abbey captured something few stories ever do: the soul of an era and the emotions that never age. Even after the camera stopped rolling, its spirit lingered in the hearts of its cast, its crew, in millions who still find peace in the sound of a softly closing door at the end of a long, elegant day as the last light fades over Highclere Castle. The echoes of Downton Abbey still linger, soft, steady, and eternal. The great doors close, but it feels less like an ending and more like a pause in time. For those who built it, who lived it, and who watched it, Downton became more than a story. It became a memory that never truly lets go. Behind every frame was a heartbeat. Behind every line of dialogue, a quiet truth. Downton Abbey was never about the rich or the poor, or about the walls that divided them. It was about people, fragile, proud, imperfect, trying to hold on to what they love in a world that refuses to stand still. It showed that every goodbye carries a story, and every beginning hides a farewell. The castle stands empty now, but if you listen closely, you can still hear the laughter of the Crawleys echoing through the halls, the distant clatter of silver trays, and the whisper of gowns gliding across polished floors. The ghosts of those moments remain, not haunting, but guarding, as if the walls themselves refused to forget. What Downton Abbey gave us was more than entertainment, was emotion dressed in elegance. It reminded us that beauty can be quiet, that love can be unspoken, and that change, though painful, brings life its rhythm. It taught us that even when the curtains close, the story doesn't end, it lives on, carried by those who felt it. And perhaps that is why, years later, we still find ourselves returning to it, not to watch, but to feel. To remember the grace of a slower time, the dignity of small gestures, the weight of duty, and the warmth of connection. Downton lives on in the hearts of everyone who ever believed that kindness and honor never go out of style. So as the music swells and the final image fades, we are left not with silence, but with a heartbeat, gentle, persistent, eternal. Because Downton Abbey was never just a series. It was a reminder that the past, no matter how distant, still belongs to us, and that behind every curtain of history, there is always a human story waiting to be told. Fade out. The castle glows in the golden light of dawn. The title reappears softly, Downton Abbey behind the scenes.